Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sehgal, founder and chief strategy officer, Motherhood Club. The year 2021, I was revered with an award as the citizen journalist by Marwah Studios, ICMEI, and I'm grateful for recognizing that effort of Motherhood Club in conjunction with Manas Wealth and My Little Greens to bring out conversations that make a difference. We've been talking about many aspects of our life, from parenting to motherhood, fatherhood, having some fun, and a lot of other things. Encouraging culture, poetry, writing, reading, uh, book reading, book review, talking about some people who make a difference in life, and a lot more. But today, what we are going to be talking is something which we have never done before. A topic that many people would shy away from because these conversations normally happen very casually in your drawing room or between friends, but never does the citizen of a country come out and talk about it. We are going to be talking about the recent verdict given by the High Court on marital rape, whether it is a crime or a fate of the individual who is the victim. Well, whether they consider that human, a victim, or not. And why I say human is that marital rape could be both ways, not necessary, it is only a woman. I was reading a research which said that 17% of the respondents were women who consented that they were a victim of marital rape. And what was even alarming, that 31% men agreed that they have done this crime. If at all, that's the verdict that we get from the highest court of law. And what was even interesting is that the age bracket was in the range of 30 to 39, where the maximum respondent consented, both for men and women. I am not a law person, but I am a law abiding person. And hence, I want to understand more about this so that as a parent, as a woman, as a wife, I can talk about it, I can express myself. Also, I would like to understand today from the society members and the legal fraternity to talk about this in detail. So, today with us, we have some esteemed guests. We have Advocate Prachi Pratap, Advocate Shraddha Joshi, Advocate Pallavi Pratap from the legal fraternity, Brigadier Vinod Dutta, an army veteran, and also a qualified LLB, Mr. Sushil Bharti, Director of Broadcasting, Marwah Studio, a father to a boy and a girl, Dr. Shivani Bhardwaj, a social worker, founder of Saathi All for Partnership, working extensively for the betterment of women and having done enormous research in that subject. I'm sure her input will be of value. Miss Ila Pachori, a mother of a newly married girl and Chief Happiness Officer at Motherhood Club. All these panelists are humans, men and women, and they are parents, either biological parents or are doing so much for the youth and the youngsters that they by default are a part of the journey of motherhood or fatherhood. So I extend a warm welcome to each one of you at this platform. I'm going to first request Pallavi Pratap to make us understand what the verdict was that was given a few days back by the High Court. As I understand, it's a split verdict. What does that mean? And what are her thoughts? Because she somewhere has shared her thoughts. So, Pallavi, over to you to understand what does Pallavi Pratap, the advocate, the lawyer, thinks about the verdict and for all of us to understand about it. Over to you, Pallavi.
Thanks so much, Ekta. That was a very nice discussion. I'm very happy to be sharing the platform with such, eminent panelists here. Uh, with respect to the judgment that came, as you have seen, that judgment basically, like you said, is a split judgment. Now, what that means is that it was a DB, which is a division bench, which was sitting of the High Court, and since a DB comprises of two judges, one of the judges held that it is correct that 376 exception 2, the 375 exception 2 should be removed. That is correct, is what they said. But what they also said, the other honorable judge, what he also said was that no, that's not the right way of moving forward. And I had the opportunity of actually being part of the committee which was looking at criminalization as far as marital rape is concerned with National Commission for Women, and we were to give our our comments and our suggestion as far as criminalizing marital rape was concerned, which is what uh, you know um, the discussion was, and a lot of arguments were taken from there as well. The idea of criminalizing marital rape is that, one, it is considered as an offense in most Western world, and it is quite clear that a woman should be given right and control over her body. And when she's saying no to a specific act, then that act is considered to be wrong, and it should be seen as a crime against that woman's body. So this is where the entire argument started from. Now, the other side kept arguing, and a lot of men's right activists, rightly so. I'm not the one who has to judge that specific argument, but they were coming from an area where they said that it is very difficult to, provide evidence, because in India, there are catena of judgments of the Honorable Supreme Court where it says that if the prosecutrix, that is the victim of rape, whatever she says, that should be considered to be true. And we have seen increasingly that there are so many dowry cases where 498A is invoked, and wrong cases are levied against, let's say, the in-laws or the husband or some sister-in-law who's living in United States of America and practically in a very different continent, but she's also roped in into a 498A, saying that because she used to harass me over a phone call. So clearly, there are ambiguities that we see as far as law is concerned, and even if the law is strong, we see that the difficulty is as far as implementation is concerned. So therefore, the trouble, and rightly so, I think the men's right activists were correct in saying that it will become all the more difficult for us to prove because there's no evidence. Now imagine if imagine a situation where maybe there has been 8 years of marriage or 9 years of marriage, and the wife claims that there is marital rape which is done. Now it is equally difficult for her also to prove that there was no consent, that there was force. And it is not necessary that every time there is force that you will have bodily marks or injuries. Typically, if you would see, as far as a typical rape case is concerned, there will always be a medical examination where you will see certain elements which will then provide that evidence that there was rape. But in marital rape, it is very difficult to provide that evidence, right? It's just my word against someone else's word that I was raped. Now, how easy or difficult will it be for me to prove that, and how easy or difficult will it be for the other side to defend it? So I think both the judges were actually on that. They were basically standing on those crossroads where they realized that, one, of course, Justice Shraddha, and I have my lineage towards him because I think that his part of thinking about criminalizing marital rape was more. I at least personally feel, having had those experiences, that it is important, and it is about time that India has those laws. And if the Western world is able to, you know, has been able to criminalize it for such a long time, then I'm sure, you know, there is a lot that we can learn from them as far as evidence is concerned, and how do you deduce that evidence and figure out whether
Absolutely.
or not the consent was there. Although Justice Harishankar was also completely correct with respect to the fact that it can be misused, and our biggest fear every time that we are bringing a law is that there is a possibility of the misuse, and I think that's where both of them are correct. And now that the appeal has gone to the Honorable Supreme Court, we will all see exactly where the cookie crumbles in that sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're very right, Pallavi. And I think that has been a big issue with regards to all the sections that get imposed. But I'm going to, ask you to pause here, and I'm going to bring in parents' perspective, because I think as a parent, the child or the victim, whoever, men or women, are will first reach out to their parents and confide in them that they are being mistreated. So here I want to bring Mr. Sushil Bharti, uh, and Miss Ila Pachari, for to understand from them that as a mother to a daughter and a father to a son and a daughter, how do you react to such a verdict? Ila, I think Mr. Bharti is driving, so let's take you first. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Thank you so much, Ekta. And I was hearing Pallavi, Pratap, and I have also read the judgment by both the judges briefly, like because I am no expert. And exactly, there were two judges who were standing on crossroads. Okay, as layman, or as a woman, or as a human, I am in a similar sort of dilemma. There could be a misuse of this law, or women or men would continue to get victimized. And my daughter is going to be 30. She got married recently, and though I have given her enough tools and knowledge and strength and wisdom to take care of herself, but this is one topic where I still feel pretty scared as a mother. I do know she's got a loving, a caring husband, but who knows what changes in the years to come. Though girls these days are more and more aware and very, very vocal about their issues, they know their rights. So somehow, just the thought that my daughter is capable to take decisions, that my daughter is aware about things, and she's a strong girl, this thought comforts me from within. But if I represent a larger segment of mothers like me, my what do I say? I am still scared.
True. Absolutely. Mr. Bharti, would you be able to speak now?
जी एकता जी, मैं अपना वीडियो नहीं खोलूंगा, मैं ऑडियो
जी
से चलेगा मेरे?
जी जी, प्लीज।
जी। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया एकता, मुझे आमंत्रित करने के लिए कि आपने बहुत ही संवेदनशील विषय चुना है और बहुत ही बोल्ड विषय है ये। इस पर जनरली बातें नहीं होती हैं। वो जजमेंट मैंने भी पढ़ा है जिस जजमेंट की बात हो रही है। एक्चुअली ये अपने आप में एक चुनौतीपूर्ण विषय है। वो इसलिए है कि जो हमारी सोसाइटी है, या जिस तरह की एक एक सिस्टम जो बना हुआ है, एक पारिवारिक सिस्टम जो बनाया हुआ है, तो पारिवारिक सिस्टम का मतलब ये है कि भई आप शादी के बंधन में जाएँगे और पहले तो कोई देखता नहीं है, या पहले तो नहीं पता चलता है, लेकिन बाद में चीज़ें जो हैं, जब चार दीवारी के अंदर व्यक्ति होता है, तो हर किसी की कमियाँ, आदतें, खराबियाँ सब पता चलती हैं। देखिए, जहाँ तक आपने कहा कि पेरेंट्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से, तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि सबसे पहले जो है वो सम्मान की बात है किसी भी रिश्ते में। अगर वो सम्मान आपको आप उसके प्रति अगर कॉन्शियस हैं, तो वो पहल जो है आज के समय में स्वयं को करनी पड़ेगी, चाहे वो महिला हो या पुरुष हो। मैं महिला पुरुष के को एक तरफ रख कर के बात कर रहा हूँ कि पहले जो भी सम्मान है, सम्मान से मेरा मतलब ये है कि अगर मैं एक पिता हूँ, तो मैं अपनी बेटी को एक अच्छी एजुकेशन देना चाहता हूँ और उसको कामयाब बनाना चाहता हूँ और फाइनेंशियली इंडिपेंडेंट बनाना चाहता हूँ कि जिससे कि अगर जीवन में चाहे वो मेरा मेरा बेटा ही क्यों ना हो, कि हर किसी को ये आज़ादी होनी चाहिए कि अगर आप एक सम्मानित रिश्ते के अंदर हैं और आप उसके साथ चल पा रहे हैं, तो बिल्कुल चलिए। लेकिन अगर आप उसको झेल रहे हैं उस रिश्ते को और अननेसेसरी जो है, तो आपके पास ये स्वतंत्रता होनी चाहिए। हमारे माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने ये कहा है कि भई आप तलाक ले सकते हैं। तो तलाक तो एक आधार बन सकता है, लेकिन अगर आप क्राइम और फेट की बात करेंगे तो मुझे लगता है कि ये दोनों नहीं है। क्योंकि अगर आप क्राइम मानेंगे तो कई सारे देशों के अंदर, जहाँ विकसित देशों के अंदर ये क्राइम माना गया है, वहाँ पर अगर देखेंगे तो महिलाएँ फाइनेंशियली इंडिपेंडेंट हैं, वो बहुत ही अच्छे तरीके से डिसीजन ले सकती हैं और वहाँ की जो सिचुएशंस हैं वो अलग हैं। लेकिन अगर हम अपने भारत की जो सिचुएशंस हैं, या जो यहाँ पर जो सिचुएशंस बनती हैं, तो उसमें ज़ाहिर-सी बात है कि दोनों जो जजेस हैं उनके लिए दिक्कतें पैदा होंगी। जैसे अभी पल्लवी भी पहले बता रही थी कि अभी माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने एक फैसला लिया है कि भई जो इन-लॉज़ हैं, उनको ना लपेटा जाए, क्योंकि पहले जो है उसका मिसयूज़ होना शुरू हो गया था। तो ये भी कई सारी चीज़ें जो हैं, वो साइड बाय साइड चल रही हैं, क्योंकि ये बहुत बारीक लाइन है। तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि सबसे पहले जो है, किसी भी रिश्ते के अंदर सम्मान बहुत ज़रूरी है और फाइनेंशियल इंडिपेंडेंस जो है वो बहुत ज़रूरी है। आज का जो वक़्त है, जब हम लिविंग रिलेशनशिप की भी बात कर रहे हैं, तो ये कोई ज़रूरी नहीं है, कोई बहुत बड़ी बात नहीं है कि आपको एक पति होना चाहिए या एक पत्नी होनी ही चाहिए। मैं दोनों पर्सपेक्टिव से बात कर रहा हूँ। कोई ऐसी आवश्यकता नहीं है। कोई आप बहुत अच्छे तरीके से जीवन जी रहे हैं और बहुत ऐसी महिलाएँ हैं, मैं मेरे सर्कल की बहुत ओल्ड हैं जिन्होंने अपना करियर बनाया है, तरीके से रहते हैं, उनके बहुत सारे बॉयफ्रेंड उनके साथ वो रहती हैं, कि जो
जी।
ऐसे वो है। मैं इस पक्षधर नहीं हूँ कि ये इस तरह से जीवन को चलना चाहिए, लेकिन लेकिन सबसे पहली जो बात है जो मैं बार-बार कहूँ कि सम्मान है, वो किसी भी रिश्ते की पहली कड़ी है। ये तो मैं एक पेरेंट्स के पक्ष से मैं कहता हूँ कि कोई भी कुछ भी सहने की आवश्यकता नहीं है। अगर आप मजबूत हैं, ताकतवर हैं, फाइनेंशियली इंडिपेंडेंट हैं, तो आपको इस तरह की चीज़ों के अंदर नहीं जाना चाहिए। आप जजेस की बात करते हैं तो वो भी पिता हैं और वो भी इंसान हैं और उनके घर भी परिवार हैं, तो वो अगर लेते होंगे तो वो भी शायद अपने आप को इस शूज़ में डाल डाल करके देखते होंगे। दूसरी बात ये है कि मेरा संबंध मीडिया से है।
जी सर।
2002 के अंदर मुझे एक असाइनमेंट मिला था, जो मैंने किया यूनाइटेड नेशन के लिए चाइल्ड ट्रैफिकिंग को लेकर के। तो जब मैंने पूरा भारत घूमा और जितने भी देश के ब्रॉथल हाउसेस को मैंने शूट किया, तो वहाँ पर किस तरह के लोग आते थे, वो बड़े ही बीमार मानसिकता के लोग आते थे। वो ऐसे लोग होते थे जो घरों से अनसैटिस्फाइड लोग होते थे और वो इस तरीके की चीज़ें, जब मैं इंटरव्यूज़ उनका लिया करता था, मेरे रोंगटे खड़े हो जाते थे कि उनके दिमाग में जो एक वियर्ड इमेजिनेशन हुआ करती थी एंड वो उस पैसे के अंदर जो भी पैसा वो खर्च करते थे, उसमें वो मैक्सिमम जो प्लेज़र है वो लेने की कोशिश करते थे और वो इमेजिनेशंस इतनी अजीब-अजीब किस्म की इमेजिनेशंस होती थी कि कोई भी सामान्य आदमी को सुन कर के या सोच करके भी उसको घृणा होता है। तो मेरा कहने का अर्थ ये है कि मीडिया को भी इस तरह के जो विषय हैं, वो बहुत सेंसिटिवली हैंडल करना चाहिए। मैं रेडियो स्टेशन चलाता हूँ, तो एक बार हमसे कहा गया कि भई आप डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस के ऊपर एक सीरीज़ कीजिए। तो आप विश्वास नहीं मानेंगे कि बहुत सारे लोगों को हमने कॉन्टैक्ट किया। पहले तो महिलाएँ बोलने के लिए राज़ी नहीं थी और जब उन्हें तैसे करके ढूँढा गया, ये किया गया, तो बड़े-बड़े दूर-दूर सारे जो इंटरव्यूज़ हैं, वो लोग देने के लिए तैयार हुए, लेकिन उन्होंने साफ कहा कि हमारी आइडेंटिटी जो है वो छुपा दी जाए। तो क्योंकि ये कहीं न कहीं कमज़ोर है, पक्ष जो है कमज़ोर है, इसी वजह से ठीक है, हमने डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस पे किया और बहुत सारी बातें हमें पता चली। तो मीडिया को भी अगर इस तरह से कहीं भी कोई ज़ोर ज़बरदस्ती है, तो मीडिया को साथ में लाना चाहिए। लेकिन अगर आप भारतीय समाज की अगर बात करेंगे तो यहाँ पर मैक्सिमम जो लोग हैं उन्होंने एक सिस्टम में इस चीज को डाल दिया है कि भाई ये तो एक हस्बैंड वाइफ का कंसेंट कह लीजिए या जो भी कुछ कह लीजिए, और ये तो शादी के बाद जो है इट्स वेरी वेरी नॉर्मल। तो आप वहाँ पर ना कुछ तय कर सकते हैं, ना उस पर विचार कर सकते हैं, और किस तरफ फैसला जाएगा ना उसको आप भाग्य अगर कहेंगे तो भाई आपने मनुष्य का जन्म क्यों लिया है कि आप भाग्य समझ के दुर्भाग्य समझ के उसको सह रहे हैं। तो
जी
सबसे बड़ी बात यह है कि आप स्वयं को सक्षम बनाइए, और इसका जो हल है वो ये तो हो सकता है कि आप उससे अलग हो जाए और आप एक इंडिपेंडेंट लाइफ जिए। अगर आपकी बॉडी को एब्यूज किया जा रहा है तो ये तो बहुत बात है, लेकिन ये अगर क्राइम की कैटेगरी में अगर इसको माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट या कुछ उस तरह से करते हैं तो मुझे लगता है कि जो भारतीय समाज है तो मैक्सिमम लोग जो है क्राइम की कैटेगरी में आ जाएंगे। जैसे कि अभी डेटा भी बताया जाता है, परसेंट है वो हुए हैं और बहुत सारे पुरुषों ने स्वीकार किया है। तो मुझे लगता है कि थोड़ा सा इस तरह की अगर स्टोरीज हैं या पुरुष जो समाज है, अगर कहीं भी कोई गड़बड़ी हो रही है, कुछ भी हो रही है, तो मीडिया का भी काम है कि उसको सेंसिटाइज किया जाए। क्योंकि जब बेटी बचाओ आंदोलन भी हुए तो सारी चीजें सारी ये आ गया
जब तक सर का नेटवर्क वापस आता है, ये शीला आप कुछ कहना चाह रही हैं?
या मैं इसमें एक चीज जोड़ना चाहती हूँ कि जो रेप विक्टिम्स होते हैं, किसी लेडी के साथ या लड़के के साथ भी एक बार रेप होता है तो वो उसको लाइफ लॉन्ग स्कार करता है, मेंटली इमोशनली। ठीक है, फिजिकल वुंड्स खत्म हो जाते हैं, लेकिन जो मैरिज के अंदर रहकर सफर कर रहे हैं डे इन डे आउट इसको, तो आप सोचिए उनकी सफरिंग, जो उनके इमोशनल स्कार्स होंगे वो कभी भरेंगे नहीं। तो इसीलिए अंदर से हमें अपने बच्चों को इतना स्ट्रांग करने की जरूरत है कि उनको ना करना आ जाए। दे शुड नो when and how to say no.
Absolutely. And I think
Keeping it intact.
what Mr. Bharti said and what Ila is saying, and I being a financial mentor myself, I completely agree and second what Mr. Bharti said, that the financial independence and the financial confidence is a must. And I think that as parents, many of us fail. All we try and do is we just try and make our children educate. हम उनको वो लाइफ स्किल्स नहीं सिखाते हैं, वेदर इट इज अ प्री मैरिटल काउंसलिंग, वेदर इट इज द राइट ऑफ अ वुमन इन द मैरिज or the legal rights that she has. I remember being a part of a panel discussion last year where an elderly gentleman questioned a senior advocate that what are the laws which are there for the benefit of my daughter. Why ask this question when things reach a point where there is abuse? Why not talk about this at the earliest? I think as parents, we have a very strong responsibility to groom our kids in such a manner that वो एक मानसिकता की जो बात की है सुशील जी ने यहाँ पे, कि ऐसी मानसिकता क्यों होती है किसी की? Are we trying to curb their desires? Are we trying to not allow them to speak on matters which at a later stage builds on, frustration comes out, and the victim is a woman over here, because the dignity is of a woman which gets impacted, even though it is the other way around. Here I want to bring in Dr. Shivani Bhardwaj, followed by Advocate Shraddha Joshi. So Dr. Shivani Bhardwaj has been working towards women advocacy. Dr. Shivani, what do you have to say? Women, when they go through such an experience, and as Ila said, you are scarred for life. And if this happens to you day in and day out, what do you have to say on that?
First of all, as it has been taken as a role to be the person who will dutifully follow whatever is said to her, as a role to procreate, as a role to look after the in-law and the family. So even if you're feeling anything, you will not say anything because children may be listening, because in-laws will reprimand you, because your parents will tell you that that's your place to be and that's your fate, as you rightly have pointed in. Uh, so I'll take you back to the feminist notions of how this was built up, the dignity of the humankind and their choices and their agency. So even if Supreme Court rules the way the lower court or the split decision has taken place, you can still go back to the human rights the dignity. And a person can talk about violence and rape within marriage. Just because one court rules, there are many other case laws that you can get. Real fact is that the consciousness to act differently in relationships is the question. So where does this really come from? To understand, rape is coming from the value of sex as a tool for oppression. Was from the cave days when one tribe used to annex the other. They would take the reproductive power, which is the woman, and then engrave them with their to produce more people, and that was the mentality. And that mentality has grown over the years to live in a age of of but the spiritual movements also have changed this to say that it is not something set in stone. Behaviors can change. So we'll have to understand where the economic reasons behind it, and people have also pointed out financial independence is the one. Woman is considered as a property of man in marriage, with the reference to the cave mentality. Sex, therefore, has been a tool of oppression in male super machist society. So, rape is the power play. जिसमें there is exploitation, there is marginalization and there is violence. ये तीनों चीज को हमको थोड़ा सा समझना पड़ेगा. How if a woman goes to a man's house and she is in a new terrain, she is losing whatever she had as a stature, as status. So she also loses voice to say things, and if she says things, then there are all these not so familiar faces, not so familiar people who can side with her. So to say that why women don't speak against it, it is because they are not left with their own agency. So how can this change is a question. Law is there to be used. And just because it is misused, it don't stop from making progressive laws. एक knife है और एक गाड़ी है. You don't stop using a car because a car can be used for smuggling. You don't stop using a knife because it can also murder. It's meant to do many other things also, you know.
Absolutely.
So to protect the vulnerable is the part here, and marriage makes women more vulnerable. Living makes women more vulnerable. Yes, there are cases where people go against it and they are extortionists. Just the way they are kidnappers. That marginalize the vulnerability of the weaker section who has lost a voice, who has lost a family, and through ages she is propertyless. She herself is considered a. So, coming on to solutions and behavior change, it is very much possible that you stop competing, because we are not in the cave age anymore. have information, we have opportunities, and we know very many positive stories where we, uh, socialization as the and change within schools, within homes, and within neighborhoods. So our NGO Saathi All for Partnerships is looking at developing neighborhoods where anybody who is feeling vulnerable can walk into a space. The person can only get into a space of talking is when this relationship of talking and sharing has happened before. So a resource zone that has to be developed within a school, within the offices, has to become a culture. And this culture to say कि power play से ही सब कुछ और प्यार से भी कुछ चीज मिलती है. तो उसी में हम रस्साकशी भी कर सकते हैं और उसी में हम नेगोशिएट भी कर सकते हैं. चाहे वो
True.
15 साल की बच्ची हो, चाहे वो 60 साल का आदमी हो, चाहे वो किन्नर हो, हर एक को राइट है वो for any act of intimacy there's just a question to be asked, are you ready? Just the way खाना खाने से पहले हम कहते हैं ना खाना खाने आ जाओ, खाने भूख लगी. So it's very simple to say, are you ready? You don't simply advance for the sake of advancing because you're feeling the urge for it. Is urge so supreme? Can you not change your behavior at that point of time to say, do you feel like it rather than saying, I feel like it? So just that much.
True, very true. You're right,
Because it
absolutely.
is not a competition, it is co-living, it is co-partnering, and share joy. It is not to share power. So systemic changes, of course, are necessary, and personal changes also are.
True, very true. And I think the personal changes is going to come from the way we upbring our kids. You know, looking at the upbringing, looking at talking about things. And there's a comment which has come from Sangeeta, who's a mother of two small kids. And I think she's very right in saying, you know, when we talk, are, you know, for the ones who have grown up kids, when your kids get married, you don't hesitate asking them that when are you going to make us grandparents? Are you not invading in their sexual privacy? Then why can we not talk to our kids at a younger age when they are, you know, when they start developing these kind of urges or their mindset, that curiosity starts building in? I think as a society, each one of us has a role to play in this, because whatever I understand, every lawyer prefers that things get settled in an amicable manner, and you know, burden the you know, the court of law, reduce the burden over there, because there are so many other cases that are there. We need to be conscious about it. And I'm going to want to ask this question, Advocate Shraddha, uh, since you have been working with women, and especially women who have been tortured, who have been through uh, abuse, physical abuse, domestic violence, and a lot of other issues that women go through. And let me tell everybody, one of the reasons why Shraddha went ahead to study law was precisely this reason, so that she can formally help these women who she already was helping. So I want to ask you this question, Shraddha. I read somewhere that, and I could be wrong in my understanding, so please help me correct that also, that when you get married, it is a contract with, which gives the right to the men to have sex with the women. Is that correct? If so, don't you think at the very basic level, this aspect needs to be changed about marriage? As Dr. Shivani said, that marriage is about co-living, it's about being happy, it's about procreating, and procreation is a result of happiness and not force. What do you have to say on this?
Thank you so much, first of all, Ekta, and for this introduction and for making me a part of this discussion today. Uh, do you read my mind? Ekta, because I had decided that I'm going to touch base on this specific area itself. So,
Wow.
yes, now.
I
So,
guess
okay.
sometimes knowing your panelists, knowing your friends helps.
Seriously, it does. So the question that you have raised is actually, I'll tell you, this is the main part of the discussion today because the marriage institution that we have in our society, in an Indian culture, uh, clearly tries to fit the women in a box. There is an assumption made that whenever the girl is getting married, she is going to take care of only two things in her life. In Marathi, we say "चूल आणि मूल," which means the kitchen and the child. That's all. So the society has already defined things for a woman. Now, what happens is, if we look at the richer class and the poorer section of the society, the richer class has the benefit that the women are educated, they have a say, they are financially independent. But if you look at the poorer class, they are all at a very big disadvantage because they are neither financially independent, they are not educated, their parents are not financially great, and that is the reason they are told or they are brought up in such a way that whatever comes your way after your marriage, you have to accept it and just keep living the way it is going to happen. Don't come to us. Now what happens is, if I look at this thing, okay, article 37 section 375 has already clearly defined rape. Okay, a rape is a rape, that's it. I think we should not look at things के ऐसा किया तो ये रेप में फिट हो रहा है, वैसा किया तो ये रेप में फिट हो रहा है. Because article section 375 में clearly बताया गया है that whenever for the unmarried girls, if there is any assault, physical assault that happens without the consent of that particular girl, it is going to be termed as a rape. Then why is there so much of injustice for the married class of women? If we keep the same definition for the married class of women, won't it be helpful for them too? That any physical assault or sexual activity without their consent is going to be considered as a rape. Now, let me give you a few examples of why I'm saying this. A friend of mine had shared this case with me, and that lady was referred to me for social help. The girl was coming from a very poor family, and she was married. It was a joint family, लड़के के माँ, पिताजी, and the guy, and they had one kid. Okay. Now what happened is she was married at a very early age because of her financial condition of her family. It was very bad. So she was married at an early age. Every day, and then she gave birth to that one child. After that also, every day the husband used to force her for having sex with him. And how? She was told to be naked and she was lying on the floor. Every day he used to do that with her. Isn't this a physical torture to that lady? Finally, the girl spoke to the in-laws, okay, the mother-in-law and the father-in-law, that this is what your son has been doing to me, and please, can you just tell him to stop this? And the mother-in-law and the father-in-law said, sorry, we won't be able to do anything. It's your life. You, husband and wife, see what you guys have to do. Now the girl has no option to go back to her family also because she has a widow mother, and the mother is not earning anything. So the girl was trying to commit suicide. Okay, and the place where she was working, my friend once happened to have a chat with her because she saw that this girl who used to talk every day is very silent since 3 to 4 days. So she had a conversation with her and said, "क्या हुआ? Is there a problem? तुम मुझसे बात कर सकती हो, शेयर कर सकती हो." ये बोलने के बाद कुछ 2-3 दिनों के बाद शी ओपनड अप और उसने बोला मेरे साथ ऐसे ऐसे हो रहा है, मैं क्या करूँ, आई डोंट अंडरस्टैंड. Tub that friend said, you do one thing, I'll give you a number, just talk to this lady, Shraddha Joshi, she may be able to help. And that is how the girl came to me. So ये जो सारे cases होते हैं, first of all, जब भी police complaint register करने that girl went, it was not taken because the police clearly told her that it is your personal matter, आप देख लो क्या करना है. So ऐसे cases में, what is the solution that the girl has is my question. And that is the reason marital rape must be criminalized for people like this. Let me also tell you that imperial data is very important. Okay, so I just happened to get some data which is based on the National Family Health Survey. Okay, 2019 and 21 का data I'll share. Married women aged between 18 to 49 years, 83% of them reported that their current husband has been doing this acts with her. 13% reported that the perpetrator was the former husband, मतलब जो ex husband थे. Okay, 5 years back also the numbers are almost the same. So you can understand ke where are we heading to as a society. Okay, of the 4,169 women who are or who were married and have experienced sexual violence, 82% said that the perpetrator was their husbands. Okay, and large majority said that their husbands physically forced them for sexual intercourse when they didn't want to. So the numbers are very important when we are trying to give a judgment, is what I believe. Another thing is, there was a web series, I don't remember the name, but there was a web series which highlighted on marital rape, where the wife used to. This is also one angle that I'm trying to put through to people to think on it. Okay, so there was this wife. It was a very rich family that they have shown in the series. Okay, and they have two kids. They have two kids or one kid, whatever, and the husband and wife are having a very good social life. So all their friends know them as a very good couple. Okay, but the husband every night used to have forced anal sex with the wife. So now you understand, having a normal sex is fine again, and having a forced anal sex, there is the question. So finally, this woman was not able to raise this issue to anybody because in the society they have already created an image that they are a very good couple. So
I
she's
think
under the pressure.
it's a taboo to talk about what goes on in your house outside.
Exactly.
Whether whichever form of physical intimacy one is talking about, even within families, you are kind of, like I said, and as Sangeeta also commented in our chat box, that it is okay to question the couple when are you planning to have a child, but to actually ever sit down and ask your
True that.
daughter that is everything okay. I mean, I think the reason that we are not comfortable talking about it because we never have been made comfortable to even use the word sex.
Exactly.
How do
And
you talk about it?
like I always tell people that be very practical. Nowadays, people don't want to talk about sex, but the whole world is running behind sex. Roti, kapda, makan and sex. Sex is one of the basic necessity. इसको add कर लीजिए. मैं हमेशा बोलती हूँ क्योंकि if you look at this, people are having extramarital affairs. किस लिए? Only for that one reason of sex. You
True.
have a wife, you have a husband, you have kids. What is it that you're searching out in other people? So सेक्स की वजह से इतना बड़ा प्रॉब्लम अगर किसी भी स्त्री या पुरुष को फेस करना पड़ रहा है फिजिकली मेंटली, तो आई थिंक criminalization of marital rape is very important to
Perfect.
instill fear amongst other people.
True.
That's
So
my point.
that we understood from a perspective of women, by women who are working for the betterment or for the empowerment of the already empowered women who perhaps don't realize that they are already empowered. But we cannot let the men be out of this. And here I want to bring in Brigadier Vinod Datta, who, of course, is a man himself, who comes from an organization who hires the maximum number of men. Not only do they hire the maximum number of men, these men across the status, from a Jawan to a senior officer, stay away from their families for months and sometimes years together. And as we understood that sex has become a way of taking out your oppression, your aggression, your frustration. Here is a bunch of people who don't get to be with their spouses. Brigadier Datta, I also come from an army background, you know that, and I have seen most of the army men, or rather, I would say 99.9% of the men absolutely chivalrous, respecting the women, so much so, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if a woman is demeaned, even on a casual conversation over a glass of drink in the mess, that officer can be reprimanded, right?
Yeah.
So, how does army actually work on the mental aspect of these officers who perhaps could be the culprits at times because of the pent up aggression, oppression, or emotions? What do you have to say on this?
Well, thank you very much, Ekta, for organizing such an important issue and such an august, panelist. I mean, it was a treat listening to everybody and each one of them, and they have a stellar profile and even a very good delivery system. The points which they have given are the pearls of wisdom. Now, you have raised a very pertinent issue regarding the marital equations which are there. Now, let me tell you one thing: the landscape of society and the institution of marriage is changing. Now, you see, if we go right from our school days, if we see right from our initial education, whether it is from the mother or from the schools or the teachers, whatever, we are only told one thing, or we are only told or taught one thing, that you have to just score good marks, you have to do well, you have to get a good job, you have to get married, and that's the end of it. जिंदगी में देखिए 9 रस होते हैं, और उन 9 रसों को in our schools we are not taught how to manage anger, how to manage jealousy, how to manage feelings of this sexual attraction or arousal, whatever you want to call it. We are not told. It is all hush hush. It is discussed like that. Now the landscape is changing. Today the girls are equally doing well in all walks of life. You see, gone are the days when they were only restricted to the household chores and all. Now everybody is doing equally well. So now the girls are also to be told, and similarly the boys also, that you are co-partners, as one of the panelists has very rightly said, that you are co-partners and you are complementary to each other. आपने अगर देखा होगा वो अर्धनारेश्वर वाला जो कॉन्सेप्ट था भगवान का, उनको खुद वो बदली करना पड़ा. वो इसलिए बदली करना पड़ा बिकॉज एक उससे एक सृष्टि नहीं चलती है. सो दे ऑल आर कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री टू ईच अदर. Secondly, you see, we are talking of marital rape as far as women are concerned, with the due reverence and with a lot of respect to the ladies, and since I'm in minority in the panel, it could be the other way around also. You see, we are not told whether the boys are there or the girls. Like a very good example was given by one of the panelists regarding that when the girl approached the in-laws that the son is behaving in such an obnoxious manner, and they divorce themselves from the issue. So what is required is that we must also educate, make it aware. I'll address this into 3 verticals, like what governance is also hinging on 3 verticals. In fact, one of the reasons why I did law was because one was doing a lot of court martials and summary court martials in the army, and one was blissfully ignorant about the civil aspect of the the law. And once I did that, I was a more wiser person. Well, come back on those 3 verticals. One is legislation, the other is execution, and third is the judiciary. The legislations are fine, the rules are there, the framework is there, everything is there. But you see, the Honorable Supreme Court has just given a justice. हमारे यहाँ कानून बाद में बनते हैं, उसके जो लूप होल्स हैं वो पहले बन जाते हैं. Or then people start trying to threaten you that I'm going to like in dowry cases and various other cases, that I'm going to implicate you in such and such things if this thing happens. Like you must have recalled, or be on lighter side also, there was a news item which came that a lady reported a matter that in 1967 she was molested by one of her leading stars. I would not like to name him, in Shimla. And this news item came say about in 2018 or 2019. So do you think does it take so much of time for a thinking human being to decide whether it was a rape or molestation or whatever was the status of that case? So second is the execution. Now the legislation is there, the laws are there, they have been made, but the biggest problem in India is the execution. We are blissfully ignorant about the execution part. कानून बना दिया और एग्जीक्यूशन पे वो किसी और की बेबी बन जाता है. And third is the judiciary. It takes so much of time. With due respect and reverence to the judicial system, but you see, we are 140 crore people. Do you think there is no requirement of revising the establishment? Do you think we require only those many administrative officers? Do you think we require only those policemen? The population to police ratio should not be increased. Today, if a girl or if a man also, because here we can talk of the marital rape, from the men point of view also. What happens is that the disposal. That's why in the army there is something called summary court martial, and that's why somebody is marched up to you. When you read out the charge sheet, you say, okay, summarily disposed of, because the disposal is so faster. I did a court martial, where a brigadier was accused, and in 42 days we disposed of the case. And then, the other party filed a complaint that how can a case be disposed in 42 days? And we sat, and there were restrictions that the court cannot assemble for more than so much a period. But we did a judicious thing, and we said that the agony under which this officer is undergoing, or anybody for that matter, it should finish at the earliest. So what I want to say is that, from the army men's point of view, the girls and the boys both have to be sensitized, educated. And similarly, like, I'll give you another thing. Libido. You see, or the desire, as one of the panelists had also said, it is an individual thing. Yes, you should, like, I have been in a selection, center, and what I used to think while selecting an officer from the army, from 4 points of view. One was, how will he look when he wears a uniform as an officer? How will he deal with his men? When I say men, means that these days women are also there in the army. Thirdly, how will he take sound decisions to lead his men to battle? And thirdly, how will he interact, because army is a very social organization, with the ladies when they are in a party or a get together. So, and the psychological test is conducted on that candidate. We are the only organization we test a candidate for 5 days. If I talk to you for 15-20 minutes, you will say, oh, there's no guy like Vinod Dutta. Yeah? What a great guy. The moment I come and stay with you for 5 days, you will say there's no bigger clown than him. He doesn't know how to stay. He doesn't know table manners. He doesn't know the other etiquettes. So we carry out a check on his psychology. So in most of the exams, I don't know why, we can't spare one more day in selecting people for various assignments. A psychological test is done. And one of the verticals of checking is that, does he have any kink in his personality? Does he have any kind of, hidden fantasies or, sexual orientation? And all those things are checked. Because when you carry out those, 4 tests on psychology, you are given these words when you are supposed to make sentences and stories like rape, murder, suicide, all these kind of things. And there is tremendous amount of pressure which is, applied to the candidate so that the truth comes out. So what I want to say is that, yes, today there are tremendous amount of pressures. People reach mental burnout at a very early stage. So right from the school, my earnest request is that people should be told कि जो वो कहते हैं ना कि सितारों से आगे जहां और भी है, they should be told not to churn out candidates with 98%, 96%, but to be a complete जैसे आर्मी में पर्सनालिटी को जब हम सेलेक्ट करते हैं उसे कहते हैं जेस्टाल्ट पर्सनालिटी, एक मुकम्मल शख्सियत का हमें एक स्कूल को, एक कॉलेज में एक स्टूडेंट को देना चाहिए. और we should be telling our girls and the boys both that it is a very, very intimate relation, because there is no more intimate relation than a husband and a wife. But yes, both have to be accommodative. The requirements, the form and manifestation of the marital status has changed. The people, they say that when you unfold the society demands much more from you. So the changing landscape also has to change. Today, like if I ask you, if a young mother asks a child, how am I looking? I mean, without meaning anything derogatory, the child may say, oh, you are looking so and so, so and so and so and so. Those words were unheard when we were young kids. So we have to accept that change, and we have to educate our kids, because वो मुस्तकबिल हिंदुस्तान है, वो डेस्टिनी डिजाइनर्स है. और अगर हम उनको इस तरह की शिक्षा नहीं देंगे, इस तरह की एजुकेशन नहीं देंगे, that yes, you have to accommodate each other, and that's why you are complementary to each other. And you see, these requirements are there. I mean, they differ from individual to individual, because even sex is a very important part of life. It is not that it is a physical act. I mean, you just cannot involve yourself into a physical act unless you are mentally connected, unless you are connected from the soul, or unless you have that kind of attraction and vibes which are there.
Absolutely. And in fact, what you said, you spoke about the psychological aspect. It reminds me of my college days. We all know that ragging is banned. It is, you're not allowed to do that. But I remember there was this, first year student who had joined, and we were in our final year. And he was carrying a liquor bottle in his pocket and passing comments on the girls across the batches in a very derogatory manner. So the young, the first years and the second years came to us, we being the seniors, and wanted us to address this before we could take it to the faculty. So we asked this guy, and he very openly said that I fantasize about girls, and I'm absolutely okay. So we actually had to speak to him, counsel him, take him to the you know, to the course coordinator, so that she and the other teachers could actually counsel this guy. Otherwise, he could have been a huge problem, and he could have perhaps misbehaved with anybody. So I think very rightly said, the education system needs to change. The way we parent, the parenting style has to change. We have to have a more open environment. Perhaps we need to all collectively work. We don't know whether it's going to be a crime, which I'm going to ask the legal team to talk about once we finish speaking with Minakshi. But I think definitely it cannot be anybody's fate to be mistreated, to be abused, and to be treated like you could not even want to imagine about it. And I think there were a lot of amendments that were made or were proposed post the Nirbhaya case, which I think again I'm going to, once I bring in the legal team forward to understand from them, what was suggested in the the committee that was headed by Mr. Vinod over there, as to what was he trying to propose. But before that, we've understood the women's perspective, we've understood the men's perspective, but we also have Minakshi here, who who's a corporate person and who works extensively in the D&I space, and also is a mother to a young girl who travels extensively, being a sports person, who meets with different kinds of people from different ethnicities. Of course, she's always with the father, but I'm sure as a mother, one, and two, as a corporate professional, how do you look at this split judgment? One, from a D&I perspective. Second, the way Brigadier Dutta mentioned about choosing an employee at a psychological level, are corporates also trying to actually work on the mindset of their employees so that whatever stress they have at the workplace, that doesn't lead to issues happening at home and then reaching the court of law, and for a situation which neither of them can justify? What do you have to say on this, Minakshi?
Thank you, Ekta. Sorry I joined the meeting a little late, but I've been really fortunate to hear, some really wise, declarations and conversations that have been going around the room. Um, there are a couple of questions that you asked, Ekta, so I'm going to try and address them one by one. The first one I'll start by is pivoting on equality. Like, as a corporate, like, we've talked about biases, we've talked about issues from a male perspective, from a female perspective, but as a corporate, how do we view this? What are the optics on this? And I will start by saying, marital rape, as we see it, I mean, it essentially violates the right to life, some very fundamental rights, like right to life, to equality, to non-discrimination, freedom of speech, expression, all under the Constitution. So there is no reasonable basis to distinguish between a married woman or an unmarried woman. It's an individual, a citizen of the country that we're talking about. And marriage, like Brigadier Dutta, and I think prior to Brigadier Dutta, maybe Advocate Shraddha was alluding to it, is a relationship of equals. Women do not forfeit their sexual autonomy upon marriage. So the answer to say that a man who rapes his wife may be prosecuted for other offenses such as cruelty is not acceptable either. It's rape is rape, and it is a criminal offense, and it should be deemed to be a criminal offense. Unfortunately, what we've been seeing over the years is, our laws contain no definition of what is the content of marriage. We understand how to enter a marriage, we understand how to exit a marriage, but what goes on within the construct of a marriage when there is violation, our law is pretty silent. When a woman seeks legal recourse because she's violated, she is asked to probably look at, under the IPC and discrimination or like abusive marriages. But we never, the fact that she is living in a captive situation, sharing the roof with her abuser, there is no resounding alternate to that. I mean, it's the exception is that it is a rape. Call it anything else. Call it violation. A husband does not get any legal right to be able to perpetrate that offense against his wife just because he's married to her. To your second question on, as a corporate, how do we view, how do we apply our acquisition or our recruitment tactics in a way that, ensures that who we hire, the aspects like this, like, offenses, somebody who can have the propensity for violation of basic fundamental rights of other people, of his co-workers, his or her co-workers, are also addressed. Harassment, workplace harassment is something that is of utmost importance. And when we hire somebody, I think one of the things that we always emphasize, and sometimes overemphasize, is the importance of respecting the workplace as a place where individuals come in as equals, and they need to be respected. So any form of discrimination, harassment is unacceptable, whether it is perpetrated by a manager, whether it is perpetrated through sexual advancements, through, sex for favors. So if you want, if you will only get promoted if you have a relationship with the manager. Very early on, these are things that are called out as absolute unacceptable, culture of the organization. I mean, we pride ourselves on being part of a culture that is very, very particular about calling out workplace harassment, sexual harassment. And I don't see this of my current organization, which I've been a part of for the last 18 years. But in my over 30 years of work experience, I've worked in organizations that have ranged from, hospitality to publication to oil and gas, satellite communication. I think the through line in all of it is respect for human dignity, respect for co-workers. Workplace is not a place where you're meted out with any form of harassment. And I think harassment can take on different forms, right? I mean, we talk about sexual harassment. Today, we're talking about marital rape as a criminal offense, and how do we criminalize an act of, marital rape, because it falls in the gamut of a crime. and is not something that is awarded to a male just because he's married to the woman. Like when a woman gets into a marriage or she gets into a relationship, she consents to having sex. She doesn't consent to having brutal sex, to being brutalized. That's not what she gives her consent to. And so I think that is where the whole expectation of being in a relationship which respects the other person, and having laws that also, and there's reference to where do judiciary and legislation come together. I think there have been a lot of recent dialogues or recent conversations by very respected lawyers, whether of the Karnataka High Court or even of the Supreme Court, which just question some of the basic tenets of marital law. And I think the ask is, how does judiciary and legislation come together to be able to evolve laws which go back to the principle of natural and human justice.
Absolutely.
I,
Minakshi, I want to ask you one more question
Sure.
because, you as a parent,
Mhm.
okay, and I would have loved your spouse to have been here because more relevant to him, but I'm still going to ask you this question. So, for everyone here, there is a role reversal where between Minakshi and her spouse, Mr. Debu Mishra, he's playing the role of the mother, as said by both of them. He's the one who takes the daughter around for all her activities and has very actively pursued the motherhood. Do you think, Minakshi, and I would open this up to everybody, because after this I'm going to move on to the legal aspect. Does patriarchy got anything to do with this, that the man in the house is always considered to be superior, powerful, and someone who always has the control? While in most households it's said that in a very casual way, you tell the kid that mama is the boss, or papa is the boss, but has the permission from the mama to say so. And it's a very common thing that's used in Fauji households.
Right.
Patriarchy, lack of education, financial confidence,
Mhm.
uh, lack of
Upbringing.
awareness, upbringing, lack of awareness about the legal system, and more so, implementation of the legal system. In so many cases, the delay in justice, is that also a reason where people are committing this heinous act? I won't say crime because it is still not, the verdict is still not clear on that. But this heinous act, so it has to stem from somewhere. Why would someone be so brutal? Anyone, you want to answer this? You're all married couples, you're all parents. Some of you are from the legal fraternity. We are all members of the society. What is the reason that marital rape happens? Why is
So there
it
are
that
two
the
questions.
couples? Yeah,
Sorry, Ekta. Sorry, didn't
please
mean
go
to
ahead.
interrupt
No,
you.
go ahead, Meenakshi.
No, I'm just taking a stab at this. There are two parts to your question again. As we talked about patriarchy in a family, in a household. I'll take my example of as we were growing up, and as I grew up in a family where we were very gender agnostic. So it was not like very stereotypical roles. I have a younger brother, but I don't think my younger brother ever enjoyed any privileges of being a male child, any different from I did because I was a female child. If anything, I probably had more privileges than him. So that's the background that I came from. I got married into a family again, which busted all these stereotypical roles. My husband has two older sisters, and they are, his elder sister has been in the banking sector and very, very successful at that. His younger sister, both of them are older to him. The younger one has retired as the Joint Commissioner Income Tax and was a national level athlete. She grew up she was born in the late 50s. She grew up in the 60s and 70s, where when she got into sport, I mean, she also held the national record for track and field events. For a family in Bhubaneswar that supported a girl child and created amenities for her to be able to do that, I see my husband as doing exactly that. So I don't think we have typical parent, like stereotypical mother father roles. and we don't need each other's permission to tell our child that the mother is the father of the family or the father is the mother of the family, because neither of us have played that roles. We played interchangeable roles. My husband, for the time that he was in the corporate, I mean, he led pretty senior roles in the publication industry and is now, consulting with some of them. He chooses to take her because, he wants to be the wind below her wings, right? And he's been traveling with her. She's a national level tennis player, and I think as we nurture her, we're giving to her, again, gender agnostic role. She's not growing up with the typical understanding of patriarchy, right? And both my husband and I have enjoyed, we've been married 27 years, but patriarchy and these kind of conversations have never been a part of our narrative. Again, like I said, we come from the backgrounds that we come from, even though we come from very different cultural backgrounds. I'm a Punjabi, he's an Odia, the perfect chalk and cheese combination. But I think where we align is respect for human beings, respect for each other, and the dignity that we provide to each other as spouses. So I think we create that environment for our child, and I'm hoping that she takes this into her future life as something that she can give back to society in a way where she can question some of the stereotypical roles, not be seen under the lens of, okay, you're a girl and you need to do this, because she's not taught to do it because she's a girl. She needs to do it because she's a respectable citizen of the country. She's a human being. She has her responsibilities towards the society as well as she grows up.
Wonderful. Awesome. That is wonderful. And I think if each of us as parents bring in that gender agnostic upbringing and break those myths, and as a financial mentor, I experience those myths day in and day out. And like I mentioned, a lot of my women clients who I know a little bit about their personal space, who are not able to walk out of the abusive relationship, is because they are not financially independent or confident. And I think that, I feel, is also a very important aspect that women need to start realizing, that you need to work towards your financial independence and confidence. I'm going to move to Prachi, who's been, very patiently listening to all of us. Prachi, in the beginning, Pallavi said, and we've also read that in more than 100 plus countries, marital rape is a crime. And we have a split verdict, as we speak, and it lies in the Honorable Supreme Court to know what the final verdict would be. How is it that the other countries are able to criminalize this? Are we not able to do it because of the the pressure of the society, or there are genuinely some legal aspects towards it, barring the fact that it cannot be proven? I think even when you talk about non-marital rape, while whatever we have seen, what is shown to us in media, of the cases that have been through, there are evidences that you collect, right? Whether it is, I mean, any kind of evidence that is there, but still it becomes very difficult to even prove there that it actually was a rape. So what is stopping us, and what is different in our country vis-a-vis the others? What are your thoughts?
See,
And I'm going to would also like Pallavi and Advocate Shraddha to answer this also one by one. Yes, Prachi.
uh, so what we have traditionally known, uh, the history, the legal anthropology of marital rape is that it was the implied consent theory of Sir Hale, which started the debate of marital rape. That okay, it is an implied consent. If a woman is married, marriage was a contract in Western countries. In 1857, even the United States held that it was a contract. So it is, as per contract, it's a right of a husband to have sex with the wife. Now, slowly as society progressed, there were more cases that came up. So it came to be as a spousal issue. Instead of saying that a man and woman, they decided that equality will come when it is considered as spousal. And the solution, that it was even published in a paper by Vanderbilt University, which said that the equal protection clause has to come in marital rape. That is why other countries have been able to, even Nepal for that matter, has been able to criminalize marital rape. And we haven't, because we are unable to insert the equal protection That is also because what happens in India, there's a lot of domestic violence issues that happen. So, marital rape, if it's there, or the shelter that women get for it is under domestic violence. So now the issue is that we have to consider it as an equal protection for all, which somehow we are unable to. But as the case has gone to Supreme Court, and as there might be more research and more arguments on constitutionality of it, we hope that this clause will be exercised and it will be considered. There won't be any protection for either of the spouse, because this is the only place where it is considered as an exception. In other places, all are treated equally. But in these clauses, they are being discriminated. And that is why the issue is there that men will suffer more eventually in cases of divorces or in false criminal allegations. So I think the only reason we are failing to criminalize it because we don't want to treat men and women equally. And it has got a lot to do with how our society is at the moment. But if we want to change it, we have find a balance by bringing some legislative changes.
Wonderful. And thank you for, calling a spade is a spade, that it actually is about the equality, right? Let's dwell a little more on that. Pallavi, your words. What do you have to say?
Do you want Shraddha to go first? Because I have some very sarcastic things to say.
Sure. All right, fine. Shraddha, let's hear you.
When I was just reading a few things related to marital rape, what I came across was that the government said criminalization could have destabilizing effect on the institution of marriage. Okay, so now if you look at if you look at the thought process, what exactly is an institution of marriage is my first question to the society, to the government, to everybody. What is an institution of marriage? Very honestly, this we are living into a patriarchal mindset. We are unfortunately living in India where women are not considered equal. I'm not talking about superior. Superior तो जाने दीजिए, equal कीजिए तो भी बहुत है हमारे लिए. तो हम आज भी इसी परिस्थिति में जी रहे हैं जहाँ पे औरत को सम्मान ही नहीं मिल रहा, और हम उस सम्मान के लिए अब तक हर क्षेत्र में झगड़ा कर रहे हैं कि हमें आप सुपीरियर मत बोलिए, बस सम्मान दे दीजिए. तो जब मैंने ये स्टेटमेंट पढ़ा तो मुझे ऐसे लगा कि वाओ, मतलब गवर्नमेंट में भी ऐसे विचार आते हैं कि कि इससे मैरिज का इंस्टीट्यूशन खराब होगा. तो जब कोई पुरुष एक्स्ट्रा मैरिटल अफेयर करता है तो वो मैरिज का इंस्टीट्यूशन खराब नहीं होता क्या? या हर बार पुरुषों को प्राधान्य दिया जाता है. सॉरी टू से दिस, but I am not against any males here, but the thing is practicality में एक औरत को हर फील्ड में हर रोज स्ट्रगल करना ही पड़ता है. एंड बीइंग अ वुमेन आई हैव गॉन थ्रू ऑल दिस थिंग्स जहाँ पे ये सारी चीजें होती है. और जैसे मैंने कहा कि इफ मैरिटल रेप इज क्रिमिनलाइज्ड तो कहीं पे तो लोगों में एक डर बैठ जाएगा, और उस डर की वजह से एटलीस्ट पुरुष थोड़े से मर्यादा में बिहेव करेंगे. दूसरी बात ये है कि जैसे हम बोलते हैं कि शादी के बाद हस्बैंड और वाइफ के बीच की जो बातें होती है वो बाहर हम किसी के साथ शेयर नहीं कर पाते. तो मैं तो बोलूंगी कि अभी अगर हम सोशल मीडिया पे तो लोग आजकल बहुत सारे लाइक्स, बहुत सारे कमेंट्स, बहुत सारे व्यूज पे इतना एम्फसाइज करते हैं. तो मैं बोलती हूँ उस बहुत सारों में अगर एक भी बहुत क्लोज फ्रेंड, अच्छा फ्रेंड आपका होगा या होगी, तो स्टार्ट शेयरिंग योर थॉट्स, start telling people what you are going through. It's not because you want to gain sympathy, but it's because you never know this one problem of yours could actually open up 100 mouths who are going through this. And that's what exactly happened. Workplace harassment act kahan se aaya? एक कोई तो खेत खलियान में विशाखा केस कुछ हुआ था, वो लड़की को गैंग रेप किया गया फील्ड्स में एंड ऑल दिस, एंड देन द वर्कप्लेस हरासमेंट, ऑल दिस थिंग्स केम इनटू पिक्चर जो आज हम कॉर्पोरेट्स में भी यूज कर रहे हैं. So
True.
somewhere, some small thing you never know could ignite a big fire, and that is the reason it's very important to say that. Also, the patriarchal mindset is something that I'm going to emphasize today a little bit more. जैसे see, अभी while I was talking, my husband got a cup of coffee for me. So fortunately, मेरे घर में भी, it's all equal. Like my husband, sometimes I don't do the dishes. I just look at the basin. I'm so bored to do the dishes. I'm like, you don't worry, I'll do it today. And I'm like, wow, this is happiness. तो ये सारी चीजें nobody, मुझे ऐसा लगता है there is no need for a, हाँ parents should teach, it's fine, but grown-ups को आप क्या teach करोगे? It has to come from within. The moment you're marrying somebody or you're entering into that beautiful relationship of marriage, you should be the artist and you should know how artistically, you can just bloom up that relationship. ये हर एक को समझना चाहिए. It's not just about having a cook for a lifetime. It's not just about having a dishwasher for a lifetime or a cloth washer for a lifetime. या आपके बच्चे संभालना, produce करना. No, people have to understand that it is a two-way thing. दोनों को साथ में चलना है और दोनों को साथ में एक दूसरे को रिस्पेक्ट करना है एंड कंसेंट को कभी नहीं भूलना है बिकॉज कंसेंट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट इफ इट्स अ नो इट्स अ नो इफ अ वुमन कैन नॉट बी विलिंग एवरी डे फॉर सेक्स और she can't be ready every day to fulfill your demands or to fulfill your fantasies. So please, this is the need of the hour that people need to understand this, and it could happen vice versa also. I am not denying the fact, but I haven't come across any cases where men have told me that they are going through this violence or their wife is beating them up or they are forced to do the dishes at home. ऐसा कुछ मेरे कान में तो नहीं है. That's the reason I'm not believing this. I'm sorry, but yes, I would like to leave people with this thought that uh, why did we reach till this situation जहाँ पे marital rape को criminalize करने की नौबत आज आई है. So people should think about it. And the Western countries have easily accepted this, Ekta. It's because they are clearly considering a rape as a rape. हमारे यहाँ पे लीगल सिस्टम में इतने लूप होल्स है कि जब चार लड़के रेप करते हैं, दो लोग अंडर दो लोग जुवेनाइल है, तो इनको हम क्या सजा दे? हम लोग इस थॉट प्रोसेस से चल रहे. But that one girl whose life has been destroyed, devastated, she has been killed brutally. What about her? Nobody is thinking about her right to life. And this is what needs to change. She had a right to life. Somebody who is a victim had a right to life. My emphasis is more on that than the criminals. Criminals ki right to life, I don't think so. I'll be, emphasizing that they should be living. They have done a brutal act. It has to be punished. Until unless this happens clearly, the next batch of people or the bunch of criminals are not going to get any fear. So
Absolutely,
this
Shraddha.
is,
You
yeah.
brought in a very important point over here, and I think going back to the Nirbhaya case in 2012, I think every one of us was full of rage. We were angry till a certain time, and then there was another case, and then another, and then many more. The law did change. Juvenile, the way you dealt with a juvenile also changed. But the fact is, and Pallavi, before you give your sarcastic comments, I want to ask you, a rape is a rape, a crime is a crime. I understand that a minor, legally, nothing is, so until they attain major, no law can really be enforced upon them, right? Because good or the bad. But the fact that a juvenile can think like this, how does the legal system intend to look at this aspect? Because of late, the juvenile cases have increased multifold. And as Shraddha said, these are the ones who still can be corrected perhaps. Adults को तो आप शायद ही correct कर पाए because जो social conditioning हो गई है वो हो गई है. But juvenile getting exposed to all this, where is all this coming from? And then they are the ones who are eventually responsible for all the other deeds that happen. So what do you have to say? Yes, Prachi, you want to say something?
To add something, because when you're talking about juvenile, has been bothering, and I have not discussed it with Pallavi yet, and she's going to call me right after this and ask me about it. Last week, an issue came to my knowledge of a friend whose kid was in some other school, not my daughter's. Uh, a 14-year-old messages a 13-year-old saying, "Have sex with me." And we like, what are we going to do? We have to talk to the parents first. The parents denied, "नहीं जी, हमारा बच्चा बहुत अच्छा है." He can't say that. Luckily, there was a screenshot of the message before it was deleted so that the child to whom the message was sent was not able to see it and be affected. Anyway, it was brought to the principal's knowledge and notice, and she said, "We cannot kick the child out, but we can just give a warning." But we know that there are going to be these kind of predators, not only in that ex school, but there must be in other schools as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we see so many of them on social media invading your privacy. Yes,
Yes.
Ila, before I get Pallavi in.
Yeah. And there have been cases where teenager boys have sent mails or messages to their teachers threatening that I will rape you as a punishment. ओके कि आपने मुझे ऐसे पनिश किया था तो मैं बदले में आपको रेप करूंगा. ये जो कंडीशनिंग है, मेंटल कंडीशनिंग है, अब यहाँ पर लार्जर पिक्चर में वो एक पेट्रियार्कल सिस्टम की जो एक सुपीरियरिटी है वो यहाँ पर प्ले करती है, बिकॉज इन जनरल बॉयज हैव सीन अपने घर में इसी तरीके से लेडीज के साथ जो उनके घर के मेल्स बिहेव करते हैं. श्रद्धा, मिनी, यू, मी, वी आर the lucky few who are respected, who have been brought up in a very gender agnostic environment where we were raised equally, or maybe we were given more preferences over our brothers, and we have got loving respecting husbands, जहाँ पे हर चीज में एक आपको एक चीज खरीदनी हो, छोटी सी या बड़ी, उसमें भी आपकी कंसेंट है, बेडरूम में भी आपकी कंसेंट है, मार्केट जाने के लिए भी आपका मन है कि नहीं, उसके हिसाब से गवर्न होता है. बट अगर आप एक लार्जर पिक्चर को देखोगे तो वहां पर कहीं ना कहीं बच्चे देख रहे हैं कि हमारे फादर्स, हमारे ग्रैंडफादर्स हमारी दादी को या हमारी मदर को कैसे ट्रीट कर रहे हैं, घर की मेड्स को कैसे ट्रीट कर रहे हैं. तो वो उनकी एक डीप रूटेड कंडीशनिंग हो चुकी है. इसको एड्रेस करना बहुत जरूरी है.
Absolutely. Very true. Very rightly said. And I think a lot of comments, have been coming, which I'm reading, but, since the conversation happening here is so intense, but I'm trying to pick up some cues from there. I'm sorry, I'm not being able to give the credit to the person who's commented that, but I'm going to thank everyone at the end. So, Pallavi.
Right. I think Minakshi has to leave, so we must thank her for the time that she spent with us and the
Yes.
insightful points that she made. The discussion was very intriguing, and the fact that you told us such interesting things about how your organization has been working. I think that's really nice. Ekta, I think it's your cue to actually thank her, not mine.
Yes, no, but thank you, Pallavi, because, I must admit that there was a post of Pallavi that I read, and which immediately triggered the thought that we must bring this conversation, and, thank you so much for that. But yes, thank you everyone who has, been here as a panelist, who's been here as a, watching us over the three different social media handles that we have shared this conversation. Yes, Shraddha, you also need to leave.
No, I don't need to leave, but I'm waiting for sarcastic comments of Pallavi.
Yeah, of course. I'm
more
not closing
interested.
this as yet. I'm not It's not at all.
Bye to
But
Minakshi. That's a
yeah, so,
Okay, then
yes,
that's fine.
yes,
to
absolutely.
vent it out
Yes.
just now because there's too much rant that I think I need to do.
Yes,
I was
Pallavi,
going through
please.
your Facebook page. I was going through her Facebook page, day before yesterday, and I was trying to know. And then I think I read the article also on that marital rape that, you
Oh,
guys
I
have.
do mean things. So I'm one of those venting people who goes
No, but
around
I
and
really
just
like venting people because
like-
I also write a
like you
lot.
just- correct. Like you just said that if somebody's raising a voice somewhere and it gets heard, it's
Yes.
like it's in some ways you're just paying it forward that maybe somebody might take
Exactly.
a cue and find out a solution to it.
True.
So all right, so one by one I'm gonna go. First of all, there was this gentleman who was there. Who had said that if you are into a bad relationship, it's best that you get out get divorced. See, that option is always there, but that's not the only option. That's one. And two, a crime is a crime, and somebody needs to be punished for a crime that is committed. That's just my thought, and I might not be liked for saying something like that, but divorce happens, and in any case that happens in India, which is not a mutual consent divorce and does not arise out of a settlement, will take anywhere between 4.25 years to 5 years for it to be settled. To be settled, not for it to get over, because there will be appeal, and then there will be something which goes to the Supreme Court. And so one is, I have seen cases which have been going on for 20, 25 odd years, and then finally people have achieved their closure. So even though divorce is an option, it is not always the only option which is available. A lot of times people do stick in bad marriages because there is something that they feel is important. Could be the societal pressure, could be, like he said, about the financial dependence that one has, especially women who have it. So many times I feel that since we are living in metropolitan cities, it is very easy for us to look at the world from our own rose-colored glasses. Because we always come across people who would be financially independent or who would be doing great things, and we would have been raised in a gender agnostic environment and all. But if you travel just 200 kilometers off Delhi to Sonipat, or you go to Meerut, you go to Muradabad, and then if you decide to go in the interiors of Bihar and eastern UP and so many other states all over India, you'll see that it is very difficult for women to even know that there is something which is called as rape. One, there is something which can also be termed as marital rape. So I think it is easier for us to look and judge instead of realizing exactly what is there. As a matter of fact, when we were doing that NCW session, one of the biggest problems that a lot of NGOs were raising was the fact that uh, in what do you call it, in the interiors of India, people do not know what is marital rape. So if you criminalize it, there will be a lot of illiterate people who have absolutely no sensitization to what a law is, will be put behind the bar, who would have absolutely no clue about the fact that it is a crime. So when we talk about things like these, we actually look at all kinds of picture. Now, coming back to the juvenile question that you'd asked me, uh, there is always a borderline juvenile, correct? And there are judgments of Supreme Court which have started to come, where they've started to say that if I see that a person was mature enough to understand the crime that he was going to commit, then we can treat him as an adult. Having said that, that's not the rule, it is just the exception that is there. Also, interestingly, the whole idea of bringing about JJ Act was that we will be able to rehabilitate and bring them back into the society, and that there will be one less criminal off the streets. And there are instances where it works, but clearly somebody who has been brought up in a certain environment finds it difficult to get away from it. Having said that, it is not that just the people who are coming from a bad um you know uh, uh, from bad localities or from bad households are the only ones who are juveniles. There are delinquents who come from very good family, from the best of the education. So it's not like you can have a thumb rule for everybody and you can paint everybody with the same brush. Now, moving on, yes, definitely, I think sexual predators are there. And just like Prachi said about this 14-year-old boy, there is also a possibility that he might not be very aware of the fact that he was a predator, and maybe he was, how in their innocence, a lot of times kids actually ask certain things that I'm not a mother, I'm not married, so I may not always be the best person to speak on parenting, but a lot of times, boys do not really know what they are saying. So I'm not saying that, it is like how a certain leader in UP said that, it is all correct. No, not really. But uh, one needs to know exactly what is the background before we go ahead and judge a certain boy or a certain girl. Now, for instance, here, when we are talking about a boy, a 14-year-old, doing all this, we can also at the same time talk about boys' locker room. That whole incident of the boys' locker room was actually started by a girl. So if we actually try to see that no, boys are doing it, and they are the predators, it's not always happening. It's a lot of times girls also who are equally responsible for a crime that is that is conducted. So right now I think we, with the advent of social media and the fact that the lockdown actually brought the kids inside the house, and we had absolutely no idea what they were doing despite the fact that they were living with us, because they all had this mobile phone or a laptop in their hand, and god knows what was going on with them. I think it has become difficult for all of us to understand the kind of the psychoanalysis that has to be done by parents to actually see exactly what the the repercussion rather would be of those kids once they go back into the social milieu. Now, having said that, coming back to the pointed question on marital rape that Ekta had asked, and that Shraddha and Prachi, all of you had spoken so vividly and so beautifully on, I feel that, like Prachi said about, having gender neutral laws. Now, this is where my concern is. Every time you go and talk about a woman's right, the first thing that will come is, why can't we have gender neutral concept? I mean, so because you're going to punish a man, it is also important that you punish a woman. So, every time you would see that somebody is saying that 376 can equally be applied, because I know of men who have had been forced into having intercourse by the wife, or there have been instances, there are a couple of movies also which are made on those issues. So, the moment we start talking about women's rights, the first thing that happens is have a gender neutral law. So, I think there is a problem at every single stage where we have to look at overcoming those problems, which I don't think is going to happen very quickly. I mean, every time we'll come across an instance where somebody is telling us the most horrible of the stories. But like Shraddha must have seen and Prachi must have experienced in her own law career, we are helpless to provide any kind of legal solution to them. And I think that's about my entire rant for the week on Monday. So yeah.
I think you're quite right in what you're saying, Pallavi. I was hearing, I'm forgetting the name of the lady. She just made one statement which said, experience it for yourself and you will know what it is. While I agree that men or boys are abused, but what is the ratio? I don't know. I don't have the numbers. And I would love to hear that if there are any numbers on that. But the question is that if it is a woman who is disrespected, the question of the dignity, not only hers, but of the entire family is questioned. The burden that she carries on her shoulder for every damn thing, from the time that she takes birth to hearing about how she dresses, to hearing about how she conducts, or was she the one who gave the permission for someone to behave with her because of her character, and so on and so forth. I do not wish to sound like a feminist over here. And while we just have one male representation over here, but I also have men in my family. And I totally believe in having a fair understanding of this situation. I'm a mother to a daughter. I would like to bring her up like a human being and not like a girl. Or for that matter, make statements to her that don't be so strong like a boy, or vice versa, don't be sissy like a girl. These statements still exist. And I think
Yes.
somewhere, as the citizens of the society, we collectively fail. We collectively fail every time a woman's dignity is crushed, be it a man or a woman of that family or outside. Why there is only rage when it is blown out of proportion? Why there aren't strict laws? Yes, sometimes, as Pallavi said, that their hands are tied because they cannot provide a solution. But as Brigadier Datta said, do we need to evolve? Does the law need to evolve? Where is the fear of the law? I thought 100 times in my head before I thought about doing this session. Should I do it? Should I not do it? I even checked with Pallavi on the legal recourse to this. Is it okay to do this? Because our team discussed that we are talking about a sensitive matter. Should we or should we not? So, as a citizen, I am scared to bell the cat. I am scared to report because will I get justice? Forget about marital rape, which cannot be even proven. But as Shraddha said, and as all of us said, and taking cue from the movies that are shown, the movie Pink, a no means no, whether it is for a man or a woman. I think we can go on and on. And, there are cases each one of us knows where women have been a victim, but they cannot walk out of the relationship because that's the upbringing that has been given to us, you know. And in the Hindu way of marriage, every time the Panditji tells us that you are like Vishnu and Parvati, you're given the status of a goddess. What happens to that status once you're married? On the very first night of your marriage, you are ill-treated. Nobody talks about that. All one tells as family members is, it's okay because there is a contract of consent that has been given. I don't know what the verdict is going to be. I'm sure even Pallavi, Prachi, and Shraddha would also not know about it. And we'll all wait for what the Honorable Supreme Court gives the verdict. But I am sure each one of us knows what we want to hear, be it a man or a woman. After all, as Brigadier Dutta said, even those the judges are also parents. They're also spouse to someone. I'm sure they also have to face their spouses back at home. That, hey, what are you talking about? After all, they are also humans. But I think this conversation can go on and on. It's not a conversation of a day or of an hour, a few hours. But thank you very much, each one of you, as the citizen of our country, from the legal fraternity, as parents, as men, women, as humans, to share your thoughts. Thank you, everyone who joined us. Sorry, I could not read your comments, but I did take cues from them to ask the questions to our esteemed panelist. I think this cannot just be a conversation. This has to be on. And I wish that the panel that has got together can dwell more on this and see how we can work towards getting something more sensible in terms of decision making, how the legal fraternity can make non-legal people more aware about the laws, about our rights. Maybe more awareness needs to be created. So thank you, everyone. I guess it's difficult to put an answer whether it is a crime or a fate. But as we speak, we all know in our minds what we want. So I'm going to leave you all with this thought for you to dig into your conscious to know what the answer should be. Thank you, everyone, on the behalf of the entire team of Motherhood Club. I hope we were able to bring out some essence of thoughts, emotions, be it a rant, be it our pent-up emotions, be it our experience that we've heard. But yes, let's be there for each other and support that person who goes through that emotion. Encourage them, be their friend. And there was a comment which I'd like to read for the benefit of all. She's a psychologist, and she said that many a times people, especially kids, they open up much later about the abuse that they go through. And we've, on our Sister Concern platform, we did speak to a few of them, where after many years of being abused by known people, from the age of a grandfather to a brother, they opened up. And that indeed, I think we all need to think, are we stooping to this level where a father to a daughter, where a brother to a sister, husband and wife to bahut dur ki baat hai. We're talking about marital rape here. What about the other incest relationships that happen, which are published or not published? So let me leave you all with this thought. And thank you once again from all of us. And I hope justice happens. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. It was a very good platform to keep our thoughts and to actually have a very nice discussion. Some takeaways for me also from everybody. And I'm also going to think on that, work on that. So thank you so much, Ekta and Motherhood Club, for giving us this platform to come together and to be able to keep some thoughts for people to think upon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Brig, Dutta, Prachi, Pallavi, Shraddha, Ila. Thank you so much. And doctors, thank you, Mr. Bharti, Minakshi, and Dr. Shivani for being here. Thank you so much, everyone.